Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna. I was asking about you last night. Now I see you today. Hare Krishna. So, I've been requested to speak on a particular topic. In fact, ever since I arrived, I've been given topics to speak on. So, last night I was asked to speak upon overcoming negativity, something like overcoming negativity. I was asked to speak on Sunday. Well, in the morning I was asked to speak about Krishna's attractive pastimes. So I spoke about Krishna's attractive pastimes. Last night I tried to speak about overcoming negativity. On Sunday I was asked to speak about deepening one's faith in Kartik. But when I sat down, I was told there were 50 college students from Boston College who had never been to the temple before for the first time. And I'm trying to figure out how am I going to speak to them about deepening. And I asked if and they said yes, they've all read Bhagavad Gita before. So I pulled out Bhagavad Gita and spoke on Bhagavad Gita. I'll tell you what I was asked to speak to you tonight. That was given to me, a topic. I'm not against speaking on different topics, so please don't get me wrong. But I hope, as I always try to do whenever I speak on any topic, I hope it's relevant to the audience. If it's not relevant to the audience, I mean, of course, talking about Krishna is relevant to everyone. It should be. Unfortunately, most people don't find it very relevant. And I'm going to assume that everyone who's here tonight considers it relevant. I'll just assume it's relevant. If I've missed the mark, forgive me. But I'm going to assume it's relevant to everyone. So I'm going to try to speak about Krishna in relationship to the topic that's been given to me. The topic that's been given to me is transforming apathy. See if I can remember it. Transferring apathy to motivation. I'll have you know I'm not one of those motivational speakers. So forgive me if I don't reach the mark. I like that. I know there are a lot of motivational speakers out there who are, I'm sure Rahini Nanda can tell me about many such motivational speakers. They usually they get people motivated, but the question is motivated for what? I mean that's really a kind of a that's a broad topic. What should we be motivated for? A lot of people will be motivated for different things. Somebody who's designed to become an artist will be very motivated if they have somebody who's an expert artist come and give a talk about how to become a successful artist. Somebody wants to become wealthy. I'm sure they'll become motivated by somebody who's a wealthy businessman and who's already demonstrated his ability to use his wealth, investing it very well, and everybody's going to be motivated. Surely everybody who's motivated to increase their wealth will be highly motivated to hear from a good speaker who motivates everybody how to make good investments. Sorry, that's not my forte. And I know that actually I remember I was flying on a flight from I had just arrived from New Zealand in Houston, and I was flying from Houston to New York, and I was sitting next to a man who was a motivational speaker. And we got into a discussion about sort of like this topic. And it turned into a nice discussion because, well, I don't want to say exactly what became our basis. Well, for one thing, he was definitely, I think it was right at the time around the presidential elections, and he was trying to explain to me why he wasn't into Donald Trump. And he seemed to be very motivated to have that kind of a discussion. So I agreed with him, and that really got us onto a good start. So, but if we're going to talk about transforming apathy to motivation, I was trying to think about what's a good reference point to speak from, because the fact is that there are motivational verses in our scriptures which inspire persons to become motivated to do something that's satisfying to Krishna. And because we're not pure at heart, sometimes our motives, our own personal motives for happiness, relief from distress. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 4 types of persons will approach him. Those who are in need of money, those who are in distress, those who are inquisitive, and those who are wise. These 4 types of persons will approach him. And generally, as explained by our previous acharyas, that someone who's looking to be, is motivated to, by distress, is looking for relief for his distress. Somebody who's motivated for wealth, he's looking to become wealthy. Somebody is inquisitive, he's looking to get answers to satisfy his inquisitive nature. Someone who's actually wise, Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Te Jnanamam Bhajati Vasudeva Savamiti Samahatma Sadulava. And such persons who actually, out of knowledge, surrender themselves to Krishna, Samahatma Sadulava. He says they're actually very rare souls. Somebody who just wants, who knows, I want Krishna, I want to surrender to him, and I want nothing else. So Krishna says, Samahatma, calls him Mahatma, Samahatma Sadulava. Such great souls are very rare. In fact, our acharyas give examples that it's not bad if somebody has this kind of a motivation. The example of a person who is really interested in wealth was Dhruva Maharaj. Many people who know who Dhruva Maharaj is, was a 5-year-old boy. And he was a 5-year-old boy. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm feeling a little motivate me to speak a little bit more. Except there's a lot in the cup and I know I'm going to spill it right on my lap. Almost. He's a 5-year-old boy, and as we all know, Prahlad was insulted by his stepmother, Suruchi. Excuse me, Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was insulted by his stepmother, Suruchi. Dhruva Maharaj has wanted to sit on his father's lap of Maharaj Uttanapad, who was the king. And Maharaj Uttanapad had 2 sons. One was Uttama, and another was Dhruva Maharaj. Uttama had taken birth from the womb of Suruchi, and Dhruva Maharaj had taken birth from Suniti, because Maharaj Uttanapad had two queens. Both of them had given birth to sons. And then when Dhruva Maharaj went to sit on his father's lap, because one of the sons was already there, Suruchi spoke up and said, "No, you can't sit there," and said that you're not qualified to sit on your father's lap because you didn't take birth from my womb. It was a very insulting statement for a young boy. He was very, very disturbed by it. And not only that, but his father didn't say anything. He was silent. Couldn't understand why. And then Suruchi went on to say that if you want to sit on your father's lap, then you should go to the forest. You should seek out the Supreme Lord. And when you find him, you should ask him for the benediction that in your next life you can take birth from my womb. Then you can sit on your father's lap. He was devastated. He was crying, he ran to his mother, and Suniti, and Suruchi was more of a favored queen than Suniti. Now, of course, if something like this happened in modern times, and if word got out, like word did get out there, that of what had happened, in modern times it would probably be on Facebook, and maybe there'd be enough people to complain about it. And maybe Uttanapad might have been pressured to change his position from social uprising. But this, unfortunately, there was no such facility, and everybody heard about it, and everyone was shocked by it. But Suruchi had already heard about it by the time, Suniti, who had already found about it by the time Dhruva Maharaj had gotten there. And then she was very disturbed, but at the same time, she was thinking that you got a very good instruction from your stepmother. Why don't you take advantage of it? Why don't you seek out the Supreme Lord and see if he can fulfill your desires, give you a benediction? Because ultimately, without the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one cannot achieve anything. So she didn't fault Suruchi. She just tried to look at it in a positive way. And recommended, why don't you seek out the Supreme Lord? And Dhruva Maharaj decided, he was Kshatriya by nature, he decided that he would go to the forest. And while he was entering the forest, Narada Muni appeared. Narada Muni, as many of us should know, for those of us who don't, Narada Muni is one of the sons of Lord Brahma, and he is very much empowered to speak on the topics of pure devotion. And generally, he travels all over the universe, always looking for a good candidate to enlighten and give good instruction to about pure devotional service. So Narada Muni appeared before him and gave him some good instructions. He said, "You're a 5-year-old boy." Kind of tested him. "You're a 5-year-old boy. What interest do you have? Why are you going to go to the forest to perform? It's very austere to live in the forest. So why don't you become equipoised, undisturbed, and when you get a little bit older, then think about taking up this instruction." And Dhruva Maharaj's response was, he said that your instruction is very good, but it doesn't touch my heart. Because within his heart, he was feeling very vengeful. He had a very strong desire in his heart that he was thinking that he wanted to get a kingdom even better than his great-grandfathers, because Maharaj was in the line of Lord Brahma, and he wanted even a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma's. He says, then I'll have my own throne to sit on. And he also wanted revenge. He wanted revenge towards his stepmother for such insulting words. And also wanted revenge, feeling this sense of revenge, very strong in his heart. But he wanted a kingdom. So he wanted wealth. And he was motivated. There was no apathy. He was motivated. So motivated that when Narada Muni tested him, he said, sorry, doesn't touch my heart. I know what I want, and I've been told I can only get it from the Supreme Lord. Can you help me? So Narada Muni said, yes, I can help. Narada Muni is very expert. He knows exactly, perfectly how to engage somebody according to their propensities so that they become purified. That's the nature of a Vaishnava. He's very compassionate. He is very, his wisdom, knowledge, he understands the heart of those he's instructing, as Narada Muni understood Dhruva Maharaj's heart. So he decided, this boy wants to see the Supreme Lord. Let me give him a method by which he can see the Supreme Lord. So instructed him how to perform.
It's 8 p.m.
Thank you. Am I supposed to stop at 8 p.m.? Sometimes when I'm speaking to people on the phone, my watch all of a sudden speaks up and tells me something. I didn't say anything to turn it on, so I asked my watch, okay, what? I didn't know if there was a message, a divine message. Maybe it was Narada Muni. Disguised his voice telling me it's 8 p.m. It's not. I just thought, but I trust it's not. And also, therefore, I hope I'm not offending. I'm going to continue. So, very expert, Narada Muni knew how to dovetail the determination of this 5-year-old boy. Because he was so motivated. You know. Of course, we're supposed to be speaking about transforming apathy to motivation. But anyways, I'm going to talk about somebody who's motivated. Okay? I guess if Krishna, in Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says, Akama Sava Kama Va Moksha Kama Udara Diti Vrena Yak Bhakti Yogina Yajita Purusha Param. Whether one is desiring liberation, whether one is desiring material happiness, whether one has no desires whatsoever, a person who's actually intelligent, he must by all means worship Krishna. Because if he's intelligent and he worships Krishna, no matter what the desire, Krishna can purify even the most impure place. And Prabhupada explains in the commentary, just as the sun can purify the most impure place by its ultraviolet rays, in the same way, if we come in contact with Krishna, we can become purified. And Prabhupada even many times when speaking to others about his disciples, he would quote the verse, Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna naveshaya. He says it is the duty of the spiritual master to somehow or other get his disciple to think of Krishna. If he gets his disciple to think of Krishna, then even all the rules and regulations can come later. They come later. Why? Because if somehow we can get some focus on Krishna, the motive can change. It can change. Because Krishna is pavitram. Krishna is completely pure. He's pavitram. Completely pure. His name is completely pure. And because he's completely pure, if we come in contact with Krishna, he can purify even the most impure heart. And somebody may say that, but I'm not ready to become purified. But Prabhupada was also very expert. He knew how to introduce Krishna consciousness to those who didn't even realize they were looking for Krishna. He was so, that's the vision of an acharya. He knows that even those who are not looking for Krishna, because Krishna is so attractive. That's what we talked about on Sunday, why Krishna is so attractive, but that's not the topic today.
Stay on topic.
Huh?
Stay on topic.
Stay on the topic.
Motivation topic.
So, so even the most impure heart can become purified by coming in contact with Krishna. So Narada Muni, he saw that this 5-year-old boy is very determined. Very determined. I tested him. Didn't want to follow my recommendations. He didn't want to go back. He said, no. One thing I want only. I want darshan of the Lord because he's going to fulfill my desire. And his desire was, we already said, kingdom. His great-grandfathers. Narada he initiated, he gave him a mantra, told him to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he also instructed him how to accept austerities. And he began performing austerities and was at Madhuvan, along the banks of the river, and started to, just by eating a small amount of roots, berries from the forest. He did that continuously for a month, and then he started eating leaves. Then he started anything on the tip of his toe. He started simply by sustaining his life within his body by air. Stopped eating altogether. 5-year-old boy, pretty determined. How many 5-year-old boys are not ready to do something like that? Because he was determined, he was motivated. Very motivated. And he was a Kshatriya stock. So he did all that, according to Narada's instructions, chanting the mantra that was given to him, and the Lord appeared before him. And we all know, well, many of us might know, that the result of all of this was that when the Lord appeared before him and asked him for a benediction, Dhruva, upon seeing the Lord, his heart became so cleansed. And he began offering prayers to the Lord. And he was a well-known verse, and he says, I came here looking for a piece of broken glass, and I found the most valuable jewel. And he understood that I was so motivated for something which have no real value, because now, having obtained a darshan of the Lord in the presence, I can understand that anything else was insignificant, inconsequential, it's just irrelevant to my existence. So Dhruva Maharaj is given as the example of a person who is desirous for wealth. And our Acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that those who are inquisitive, those who are wise, those who are in need of money, those who are distressed, if somehow or other they come in contact with a devotee or the Lord himself, by coming in contact with a devotee, then their motivations can change. They can change. Dhruva Maharaj his motivation was changed. He was no longer interested in the kingdom, although Krishna understood what he wanted, and he even gave him a kingdom better than Lord Brahma's. He gave him his own planet in this universe, a spiritual planet in this universe to reside on. There's much more details to the story of Dhruva Maharaj. I've only touched the surface, but I want to try to stick to motivation, because that's what I was asked to speak on. And of course, those who are distressed, the example is given of Gajendra. Gajendra was very distressed. Gajendra was, in his previous life, he was a king known as Maharaj, King Indraduma was his name. And he actually had been cursed to take some offense he committed to a sage. He was cursed to take birth as an elephant. So Gajendra was amongst the king of the elephants, wandering about, and he entered into his lake to drink water with many other she-elephants. And while he was there was a crocodile who grabbed onto his leg. And the crocodile was very powerful. And the crocodile is a creature of the water, and an elephant is not a creature of the water. So the crocodile, they were fighting for a very long period of time. The crocodile was getting greater and greater strength because he was in his natural element, the water. And Gajendra was realizing that he was losing. Gajendra, in his previous life, he had memorized these prayers. And he remembered those prayers from a previous life. And in those prayers, he didn't even know who he was addressing. He just knew they were prayers. And therefore he began reciting these prayers from his memory from the previous life, because he could see that he was in a very difficult condition. And the Lord appeared. The Lord appeared and saw the situation, and he severed the crocodile's mouth. Crocodile just so happened in the previous life, he also was cursed to take birth as a crocodile. And then, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the Lord appeared, severed the crocodile's mouth, who happened to be a demigod who went back to Svargaloka as a result of being killed. And Gajendra, by remembrance of the prayers, because he was relieved from his distress, he became qualified for devotional service, because he was no longer interested in becoming relieved from distress. It was gone from his heart. That was his only obstacle. He wanted relief from distress, but now it was gone. So he had a motive also. He was looking for relief from distress, but it was gone when the Lord removed that distress, and he became qualified for bhakti. Those who are inquisitive, the example of the sages of Naimisharanya. The sages of Naimisharanya had gathered to hear from Sutta Goswami. They were concerned about the age of Kali, which was about to appear, and they began inquiring about what is the highest occupational duty that men can perform in this age, so that, because they perceived that there were many faults in Kali Yuga. What is that verse? Manda sumandam atayo matadagya prayinal payasha sadya kalav asmin yugi jina manda sumanda matayo mandabagya. It's age of Kali. It's very, men are short-lived, they're quarrelsome, lazy, spiritually lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, they're always disturbed. It's a symptom of Kali Yuga. So they were concerned about the sacrifice they were about to perform, and they wanted to hear from Sutta Goswami. Please, can you answer our questions? And Sutta Goswami, of course, was fully qualified to answer the questions. He satisfied their inquisitiveness, and they became qualified for bhakti. So when a person is motivated to have these desires fulfilled, and when they're fulfilled, one can become qualified for bhakti, but otherwise there can be obstacles. There could be obstacles in the path of bhakti. But if one comes in contact with a devotee of Krishna, or Krishna himself, whatever motivation that is there in the heart can become purified. So, motivation is good. It's good to be motivated. We shouldn't be apathetic towards anything. Of course, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that apathy is not very good because apathy creates a state of inertia, indifference. And if a person is in a state of inertia or an indifference, then the nature of the soul, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is to always be active. So it's not very good to be in a state of inertia and be apathetic towards everything. Sometimes it's even better to be motivated for something, and if we get the opportunity to meet a devotee who can transform that motivation to something connected to Krishna, we're very fortunate. Very fortunate. But if we don't somehow connect it to Krishna, then we may get be highly motivated to get, there's so many people out there, as we said in the beginning, so many people out there who are, expert at how to make a lot of money, they're expert in so many different fields of knowledge, and expert at so many different things. And as Prabhupada would oftentimes say, that everything has value, but what makes it valuable is when you add Krishna. And you give the simple analogy that if you have many zeros, they're all useless. And if you have 1 0, it adds up to 0. You have 10 zeros, they all add up to 0. You have 100 zeros, they all add up to 0. But what makes those zeros significant is when you put 1 in front of them. If you put 1 in front of those zeros, then every 0 becomes significant because you've added 1. But without 1, is 0. Bhagavatam speaks very highly on this, very substantially on this topic. Dhammastviduchata pungsam vishvaksena katasu yatnopariyad yatirit shrama evihi kevalam. It says that even if a person perfectly performs his occupational duties, but they're meant to awaken attraction to hearing about Krishna. And if that attraction to hearing about Krishna is not awakened, then shama evahi kevalam. Useless waste of time. Useless waste of time. What is one actually attained towards the actual substantial goal of life, which is human form of life is a great opportunity for self-realization. It should be wasted. Sutta Goswami says, Kamasya nendiya priya labo jivita yavata jivasya tattva jigyasya nato yashtiha kamavi. Said life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire to live, because the human form of life enables one to acquire the absolute truth. This should be the goal of all of his work. Work becomes meaningful. It immediately becomes a support. It's called Gauna Dharma. It's a support to fulfilling the purpose of human life, because Krishna says nobody can be inactive, not even for a moment. We have to work. But what's the goal of our work? And Sutta Goswami says, life's desire should never be directed simply for sense gratification. One should desire to live, Because the human form of life enables one to inquire to Krishna, about Krishna. This should be the goal of his work. Let me maintain this body so I can learn something about Krishna. Let me maintain the body of my family members so they can hear something about Krishna. Let me work. It's by my nature of my work so that I can help my family, friends, society to understand what is the mission of the human form of life. So it's nothing wrong to be motivated to work, but for what's the purpose of it? If it's simply for sense gratification, Shamayevi Kevalam, it's not going to produce any lasting result. Also Bhagavatam says, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido na labhati yad brahmatam upayada. That persons who are intelligent and philosophically inclined, they don't endeavor for happiness which is available by going to the highest planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Tapaloka. Because they know as far as happiness is just concerned, it can be obtained automatically in due course of time. Just as in due course of time, distress comes, suffering comes without asking for it. And I use this example, where was it? On Sunday? I think it was. Sunday I spoke about it to college students, 50 college students. Professor liked it. She came up and thanked me. Thank you for speaking to the students. But I use this example because everyone could relate to it. That nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, let me write down a list of things I can do today to suffer. It comes. You don't have to plan it. You don't have to plan it out. Don't have your suffering list and talk to others. Let's make a good arrangement to suffer, okay? Nobody does that. But Bhagavatam says that just as suffering comes without asking for it, happiness will come also. It will come without asking for it. An intelligent person doesn't endeavor for either, because he knows it will come. It's destined to come. Of course, again, let's not lose motivation here. I don't want to just tell everybody, look, drop everything, move into the temple, shave your head, become Hare Krishnas, we're sorry. This is not the direction where this is heading, by no means. Of course, I did it, but I did it only because I didn't see any future where I was going. Somehow, it must have been some reason, I just didn't see any future where I was going. So Prabhupada's message really fell on fertile soil when he reached out and grabbed me. But that's not Prabhupada's message. It's definitely not. Anybody who actually hears Prabhupada knows that he was not expecting that everybody is going to do this. But he did expect that an intelligent person will learn how to add one. If he doesn't learn how to add one, he's only going to become disappointed as life goes by and sees all those big plans for success gradually turn into something that's not really fulfilling the self and not really fulfilling the purpose of life. Oftentimes, I remember when I go regularly to Taiwan. Taiwan people there are really, really into tech things. And I tried to think of an example that would really draw their attention in Taiwan. And I was using the example of an iPhone. Yeah, right, iPhone. And I said, back then, I don't think, maybe it was iPhone 6, iPhone 7, I can't remember. We're up to 14 now, aren't we? And we're just waiting for 15. So, I was saying that, I quoted this verse, Kamasya nindriya pritya labo jiveti yavata, that life's desires shouldn't be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire to live because the human form of life enables one to inquire into the absolute truth. This should be the goal of one's work. That was the verse. And I said, human life is meant for self-realization. We shouldn't waste it simply for sense gratification. It's a much better facility than just hogs. When Maharaj Barda was speaking to his sons in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was instructing his 100 sons, saying, don't waste your life in the pursuit of sense gratification like the hogs and dogs that eat school. He says, Tapodavyam putra kayena sattvam sudhyadyasman brahmasopam. He said that instead take up divine austerities and penances to achieve the position of devotional service. This way your heart will become purified, and then you'll become happy. Then you'll become happy. So, in the same way, Bhagavatam says, life's desire shouldn't be directed simply towards sense gratification. One should utilize the human form of life for self-realization. So I was using this example. I told everybody, I said, what if I told you I have in my pocket right now an iPhone, I guess it was 8 at the time, it wasn't out yet. I have an iPhone 8 and I'm going to gift it to you. And you know, iPhone 8, really? You have an iPhone 8? Nobody has iPhones 8. They didn't know they were out yet. I said, I have one. Of course I didn't have one, I was lying, but I'm trying to make a point. And I said, if somebody gives you a gift, just a gift of something that you don't have, then an intelligent person will immediately look up in the manual and say, how can I use this gift to its full potential? What does the iPhone 8 do that the iPhone 7 doesn't do? Yeah. Isn't it? You want to know, what can the iPhone 8 do that the iPhone 7 doesn't do? You immediately want to look it up on the... Now you can just look up on the internet, it'll give you a whole list of things. You can do this, you can do that, you can do... Wow! Now I know how to use it to its full potential. I can do this and do that. I couldn't do that with the iPhone 7. So, I was trying to say that this is natural. That when you have a gift, you want to use something to its... Why should you just make phone calls with an iPhone 8? You can do that with an iPhone 7. You can do that with an iPhone 2. Full potential. So what's the full potential of the human form of life? It's a gift. We shouldn't waste it. We should be very interested to find out, what can the human form of life do that the animals can't do? The animals can eat, sleep, mate, and defend. What can a human do that the animals can't do? Should I just have glorified eating, sleeping, mating, and defending? I should be living for more than that. So this is what Bhagavatam message is all about. How to add. Take your motivation, but be motivated how to add Krishna to my life. Because when you add Krishna, everything becomes meaningful. But without Krishna, there's no meaning. What's the objective? What's the goal? Without Krishna. But if we know what is the goal, and if we become properly motivated, we should never be apathetic towards devotional service to Krishna. I wanted to read something. This is my introduction to something I wanted to read. Forgive me. I have a tendency to do that. I introduce something to a topic. I wanted to read something Prabhupada wrote in Upadeshamrita. There's a verse that describes what 6 favorable activities for devotional service. Enthusiasm, endeavoring with confidence, patience, following the regulations of devotional service, being careful about the association of non-devotees, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Rupa Goswami gives these 6 activities which are favorable for devotional service. One of them is enthusiasm, which is part of the topic tonight. Motivation means to be enthusiastic, to do something. As we already explained, there's a lot of people who are enthusiastic to do something. But unfortunately, their gains are not very substantial. If we're going to use the example of utilization of the human form of life, their gains are not very substantial. But even in the Bhagavatam, he says, everything they gain in this life, he says, the third canto of the Bhagavatam, he gives the example, whatever they gain, they can't take with them. Nothing they take with them. So the only thing they can take with them is one thing. They take their sinful reactions. That they can take with them. But nothing else. Everything stays behind. So what is the gain? What is one gain? What? So, Bhagavatam, there's another verse. What is the value of prolonged life, which is inexperience, wasted by so many years in this world? What is the value of prolonged life, wasted, inexperienced years in this world? Better one moment of full consciousness. If one gets one moment of full consciousness, this will inspire him to seek out the goal of life, the absolute truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna. One moment. And compared to hundreds of years, trees live for hundreds of years. What's the value of prolonged life if it's completely wasted by so much inexperience in this world? Better one moment of full consciousness. If one gets one moment of full consciousness realizing, yes, I should add Krishna to my life. I understand it now. That one moment is far more valuable than hundreds of years. Far more valuable. Or Bhagavatam also says, Aya Haditi Vaipungsam Ujan Asta Charyada Sao. Both by rising and setting, the sun decreases the duration of life for everyone, except for one who uses the time for discussing the pastimes of the all-good personality of Godhead. And therefore, Bhagavatam, the message of Bhagavatam, is described as deathless narrations. Deathless narrations. The more one hears the message of Srimad Bhagavatam.
p.m. With a high of 15 and a low of 5.
Are they rating my class? High of 15, a low of 5. I wanted to read something. As I said, I wanted to just read something that Prabhupada said, and I was just introducing what Prabhupada said. All this is just an introduction to what Prabhupada said. Because what Prabhupada says is always substance. Therefore, at best I can do is introduce it. But Prabhupada says it just rings in the ears. And it rings in the ears, and it just goes to the heart. Satam prasangam mama virya sambadho bhavanti hritkana rasayana kata taj joshana rashapavagavatnadi shradharati bhakti rangakumachiti. Then the association of devotees, the pastimes of Krishna, they enter the ear and they go to the heart. And what happens? When they go to the heart, then gradually one develops, loses attraction to material things, develops attachment to Krishna, feels purified, and then his devotional service begins. So Prabhupada his message is just to go into the heart. They go into the heart. Any thoughtful person, if they just read Prabhupada's books with the understanding that here is Mahabhagavat Vaishnava, whose every word, every message, every action, every desire was to somehow touch a person's heart and to give them that opportunity, just like we gave Gajendra as an example, just as we gave Dhruva as an example, just as we gave the sages of Naimisharanya as an example. By association. Association means hearing. It awakens a spark within the heart. Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagavanji, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. Prabhupada's going to talk about this in the reference I'm going to speak from. that living entity is wandering throughout the whole universe, but if by good fortune he comes in contact with a Vaishnava whose message enters into the heart, then he could begin to be motivated to do something for Krishna. So I'm just going to read this. There's 2 short paragraphs, and I'm going to stop. I'm not going to take too much of your time. But I'll stop. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask them. And let me read this first, because sometimes I do that and then I start talking. And I quoted the verse, 6 activities which are favorable for devotional service, and I explained that enthusiasm, endeavoring with confidence, patience, acting according to the regular principles, and so being careful about the association among devotees and following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. And Prabhupada speaks a little bit about enthusiasm. And he says, sorry, I need to find it. Sorry, I was looking at it in the car on the way over here. I'll find it. Please give me 15 seconds. I should have it. 15 seconds. I found it. Okay. Prabhupada says, in the course of traversing the universal creation of Brahma, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of Bhakti-lata, the creeper of devotional service. This is all by the grace of Guru and Krishna. This was the verse I quoted, Brahmanda Brahmate Konda Bhagyavanji, Guru Krishna Prasati Pai Bhakti-lata. The material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature anandamaya, pleasure-seeking. They actually want to be free from the confinement of this world of conditional happiness. But not knowing the process of liberation, they are bound to transmigrate from one species of life to another, from one planet to another. In this way, the living entities are wandering throughout the material universe. When by good fortune, one comes in contact with the pure devotee and hears from him patiently, one begins to follow the path of devotional service. Such an opportunity is offered to a person who is sincere. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is giving such a chance to humanity at large. If by fortune one takes advantage of this opportunity to engage in devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens. There's another verse Lord Kapila Dev says to his mother, Prasanga Majaram Pasham Atmana Kavayogi. He says, every learned person knows that attachment to material things is the cause of bondage. So when that same attachment is applied to self-realized devotees, moksha dvaram upavrata. Moksha dvaram upavrata. It opens the gate. Dvaram. You've heard about gates, right? Gates to Vaikuntha. Moksha dvaram upavrata. And the gates to the spiritual world are open simply by becoming attached to Vaishnavas. This was Kapila telling his mother. His mother, he was very instructive to his mother. Told his mother, Marashraya katamishta shrinvanti katayanti cha tapanti vivedastapa naitamanta chichisa. So engage constantly in hearing and chanting about me. Sadhus never suffer from material miseries because always filled with thoughts of my activities and my pastime. Ta ete sadava sadhi sava sangha vivajita sangaste shatache patya sangha dosha harahite. Oh my mother, oh virtuous lady, you should seek out such saintly persons and become attached to them. If you become attached to them, it will counteract all the pernicious effects of your material attachments. That was his instruction to Malden. Just become attached to Vaishnava. And who are Vaishnavas? Those who are attached to speaking about Krishna. Because if you become attached to those who are attached to speaking about Krishna, then you'll become attached to hearing about Krishna. And your life will become meaningful. Everything is put into perspective. You added one to everything. To your work, to family, to society, for friendship. You added one to everything. But if you don't invite Krishna at the center of life, you lose so much of value if you don't invite Krishna to the center of your life. So Prabhupada's making that point here. He says, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is giving such a chance to humanity at large. If by fortune one takes advantage of this opportunity to engage in devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens. Then he says, one should accept this opportunity to return home, back to Godhead, very enthusiastically. How many of us can actually say? It's difficult to say that I'm enthusiastic to go back to God. But he said, one should accept this opportunity to return home, back to Godhead, very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student, businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action. But action for whom? This is the what's the word I'm looking for? It's not coming. The essence. For whom? For whom? The answer is that one should always act for Krishna. Krishnartha kila cheshta. So, Prabhupada is explaining, if one wants success in any field of activity, he has to be enthusiastic. There's no difference in devotional service. If he wishes to obtain success, of course, another characteristic that Rupa Goswami has given for success is patience. We just read that. Endeavoring with confidence and patience. I'll tell you what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about patience. And then I'll end. Because patience is very important. Because unfortunately in modern society, we're looking for instant results, right? But we can't even wait 15 seconds for the website to open. Be patient, it'll open, give it a little time. So, same thing. In endeavoring for spiritual life, patience is required. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he defines patience. He talks about the karmis, the jnanis, and the yogis. He says everybody is looking for some result. The karmis, the result they're looking for is sense gratification, enjoyment. The jnanis, they're looking for some result. They're looking for liberation. The bhaktas, they're looking for some result. Although we've oftentimes heard, maybe we might have heard this before, that Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta. Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, Sakali, Ashanta. That the devotee of Lord Krishna is nishkama. He's not looking for any results. He's desireless. Krishna Bhakta, nishkama ataiva shanta. Therefore he can be peaceful. Those who are bhuktis, those who are desiring enjoyment, those who are muktis, desiring liberation, those who are siddhis, mystic yogic perfections, they're kami. Kami means they have lusty desires. They want some result. Sakali, ashanta. Therefore they can never be peaceful, because there's no ultimate goal in any of these things. No ultimate goal. Bhukti, temporary. Mukti, aruya krichdena param padam tata. They fall down. In mukti, if they have not taken shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, there's no permanent shelter. But yet, the devotee does want some fruit. What does the devotee want? He wants Krishna's pleasure. That's what a devotee wants. He wants Krishna to be pleased. But sometimes it's not so easy to get that. Not so easy to get Krishna's pleasure. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that sometimes a devotee, because he's not getting some fruit, he's not getting the result that Krishna is pleased by his service, he may flounder in his sadhana, and he may even give it up, because he sees, what's the result? He says, therefore patience is required. And it defines patience. He says, patience means that a devotee must think, I will serve Krishna, and I will get his mercy. Maybe soon, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, maybe 100 lifetimes from now. I'll never give up serving Krishna. I have faith that someday I'll get his mercy. He says this is patience. This kind of patience is required in execution of bhakti. And we oftentimes, in this connection, we give an example. In Chaitanya Lila, there is a story about Mukunda Das, who used to sing for Lord Chaitanya. And one time Lord Chaitanya, he was performing what was called the Shata Prahariya Bhava, his ecstasy of 21 hours. When he was standing on the altar, although he was playing the role of a devotee, he was standing on the altar and he was giving benedictions, as revealing himself as the Supreme Lord, giving benedictions to the devotees. One by one they would come before him. He was giving them benedictions. And Mukunda was standing and watching all the devotees receiving benedictions. But the Lord didn't call him. So he approached Srivas and he said, can you ask the Lord when he will call me? And Lord Chaitanya said, Mukunda? Oh, that Mukunda? 10 million births. After 10 million births, he will see me. Yeah, because Mukunda, there's some story that he was associating for some time with impersonalists before. So he said, after 10 million births, he will see me. And when Mukunda heard this, he began dancing in ecstasy. Dancing, and he was calling out, I will see, I will see. He had such faith in the Lord's words that all he heard was, I will see. And that meant everything to him. 10 million births, didn't even hear it. Didn't even hear it. All he was thinking was, I will see, I will see. And Lord Chaitanya turned to Srivas and said, call Mukunda, I want to see him. And they went to Mukunda, and Mukunda, he couldn't, I will see, Mukunda, Mukunda, I will see, I will see. They had to pick him up and carry him. They had to pick him up and carry him, bring him before the Lord. 10 million births was reduced to a few moments because he had such faith in the words of the Lord. So we should not think we'll have to wait so many births. We should just be faithful that devotional service is so potent. And I'll end with one verse. One more verse. It's in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll just give the translation. Pure devotional service is so transcendently potent that simply by hearing about it, simply by repeating it in response, simply by meditating on it, simply by faithfully and respectfully accepting that it exists. Maybe I don't have it, but I have faith that it exists. So I'll go on hearing about it because it exists, even though I'm so impure. But the verse says pure devotional service is so transcendently potent, transcendentally, that simply by hearing, simply by repeating it, simply by meditating on it, faithfully, respectfully accepting that it exists, and by praising the service of others, even a person who's envious of all the demigods and all living entities in the universe can immediately become purified. Such is the power of pure devotional service. So it's possible if we just remain faithful that, yes, I will simply, somehow, I will engage in devotional service. And devotional service is not very difficult. It's not very difficult. It's difficult for those who are complicated, but it's actually very simple for those who are simple. All we have to do is just hear about Krishna. Utilize whatever time we have wisely to hear something about Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna. Tell others about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya told Kurma the Brahmin wanted to give up his household life. He was thinking, I'm so entangled, let me travel with you. I want to give everything up. And Lord Chaitanya said, no. No, you stay. Yari deka tari kaha Krishna upadesh amara agyaya guru haratari desh. You tell everyone about Krishna. Become guru, deliver everyone in the land. Just speak about Krishna. And then he says, in the next verse, if you do this, then all the obstacles of your household and life will immediately be gone. Immediately be gone. Just add Krishna. And that's what Prabhupada's message was. That's what Lord Chaitanya's message is. Just add Krishna. Make your life successful. Utilize human form of life for the full potential. Everything else will come automatically. If we're motivated, we should never be apathetic towards devotional service. Never. There's always something to be positive about. Always. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I appreciate how you said that we should be enthusiastic and add Krishna, because I think sometimes there's an immature understanding that apathy is kind of close to being transcendental. Like if you just don't care about anything.
No,
So,
that's neti.
yeah.
Yeah, it may be the catalyst, but if we're very, being apathetic towards material life means disinterested, lack of concern, but that doesn't mean that that's spiritual. That's definitely not spiritual to be apathetic. And the fact that just something Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it's very short. Very short. Let's see if I can find it quickly. He says without utsaha, one becomes negligent in his worship. Negligence is born out of inactivity, apathy, or indifference. Laziness and inertia are indifference. When utsaha is generated, laziness and inertia cannot remain. He said the absence of the desire to work is inertia. So, apathy is not a very good state to be in for anyone. Apathetic means indifference. And if we're not careful, it could be indifference towards to Krishna and devotional service. And that's a very, very dangerous state of consciousness to be in. We should never be indifferent to Krishna. You had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj, for the nice lecture, class. I had a question that you mentioned that pure devotional service is very important, right? So, for the persons who are just starting their devotional service, obviously, like as a beginner, they have desires. So, if they are not pure, so that devotional service, how they can be hopeful in their day-to-day life?
But we talked all about that. That was Dhruva Maharaj. That was Gajendra. Their hope is to get the association of that which is pure. They should seek it out. That's what Kapila told Devahuti. Become attached to those who are pure, who are always speaking about Krishna. If you become attached, then moksha dvaram upavarta. It's good to be attached. Vaishnava is never interested in simply being detached. Detached from... we don't want to be detached. We want to be attached. Because that's that symptom of life, is desire. You can't eradicate desire. It's the symptom of life. So we should become attached to that which helps us to become attached to Krishna. So we should seek it out. It's not something that's passive, it's active. We should seek it out. And as we gave different examples of hope, that we gave that we quoted that verse that pure devotional service is so potent that even if I faithfully and respectfully accept that it exists, even though I don't have it, I'd like to hear about it. I won't lose my enthusiasm. Sometimes people think, when I hear about pure devotional service, I've become so discouraged. Because I see I'm so far. And then I think, I'll never get there. That doesn't... They think pure devotional service is just simply for a few rare souls whose names are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then why does Sudha Goswami, why does Shukadeva Goswami take so much time to speak about them? Because by hearing about them, faith is awakened within our hearts. We see, just see how they became purified. Just see how the Lord reciprocated with them to help them. They developed faith, they heard, they associated, and if I just simply go on hearing with faith, it will act. Shrinvata svakata Krishna, punya shravana kirtana, Vedantisto hyavadani vidunoti suhitsatam. Sri Krishna, who's the super soul in the heart of every living being, he cleanses the desire for material enjoyment within the heart of that person who develops the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Krishna acts. He takes care of the business, the cleansing process. It's not like, I'm going to clean my heart. I have nothing to do with cleaning my heart. Krishna cleans the heart. He's all pure. What do I do to clean my heart? I just have to open my heart to that which is pure. That's all. I have to develop the desire to hear that which is pure. If I hear pure messages, I'll become pure. If I hear pure name, my heart will become pure. If I desire to chant purely, gradually my heart will become pure. I know I'm not pure, but I have hope. I always have hope. Devotee, he's never without hope. He may feel helpless. I can't do it alone. But he always has hope. Why? Because there's so much to be hopeful for. And that is the qualification for getting mercy. I'm not qualified. I don't deserve it. I have so many desires. I have so many attachments. I have so many obstacles in my life, and I can't do it alone. I know if I try to do it alone, I'm finished. We should come to that realization. Myself, I'm useless for spiritual life, but I have hope. Hope is that Prabhupada has made Krishna consciousness so accessible. So accessible. That gives me hope. So I'll go on hearing. I'll go on associating because it gives me hope. And then what happens is that Krishna becomes pleased because he's within the heart. Out of compassion for them, I am dwelling within their hearts. I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. For those who are always endeavoring, trying to meditate on me, they know I can't do it alone. I need mercy. And they say also, no, that's not the verse. What is the verse? Where he says, I take one step to that, they take one step. I carry what they lack and I will preserve what they have. Whatever they have, I carry, and whatever they are lacking, whatever they have, I preserve, and whatever they are lacking, I give.
The time is 9 p.m.
Got it. She sounded frustrated too, didn't she? It's almost like, come on. Don't you really? I didn't ask for the question and answer session. Somebody else did. I was sympathetic to her. I didn't ask for her. But she really came out this, the time is 9 p.m. You get it? Okay. I surrender.
Thank you.
We'll end here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada.